Howdy, it's Kyle taking a look at the 25 most common city and town names in the US, whether they be named after colonists who founded the United States or after towns in Britain, or are simply words used to describe the surrounding geography. Many terms and names have been used to name many cities and towns throughout the country, and in this video, I'm going to count down the most common ones. For my source, I'm using the US Census Bureau, and I'm only going to be considering official cities, towns, and townships. There are many other place names in the US, like post office names or unincorporated communities, but here I'm only considering actual cities, towns, and townships. Starting off the countdown is Clayton. You can see right away that it's tied for 19th. There are actually 9 different names in the US that show up with 20 occurrences. And as such, there are actually 27 names that are going to be in this video, and within each one where the numbers are the same, I'm going to present them in alphabetical order. The largest Clayton in the country is North Carolina, with a population of about 25,000 people. And these are not all named after the same person. There are many different people named Clayton. Some are named after a person named Clay, Clayton. Next is Fairfield, also with 20 occurrences. The largest one is the one in California with a population of about 120,000. And Fairfield is one of several where that town is named after another town that already had that name. And in the case of the one in California, it was named after the one in Connecticut. And this is one of many names where the name was just kind of generic. It's meant to describe the overall surrounding geography. Also with 20 occurrences is Farmington. The largest one is in New Mexico with a population of about 44,000. And this is another one where it's more of a general name. Farmington represents farming town. And as you can imagine, there are plenty of places, in this case 20, named Farmington. Another name with 20 occurrences is Hudson. The largest one is in Ohio with a population of about 23,000. And there's no one particular person or feature in which the name Hudson comes from. There's a variety of people these towns are named after, as well as some water features. Also tied for 19th is the name Kingston. The largest one is in New York with a population of about 24,000. And most of the towns named Kingston were named before the Revolutionary War, when the colonies were under the rule of the King of England. Next up is the name Lincoln. The largest one in the country is the capital of Nebraska with a population of about 291,000. And whereas most of the towns named Kingston were named before the Revolutionary War, most of the towns named Lincoln were named after the Civil War. And because most of the towns in the eastern half of the contiguous U.S. were named before the Civil War, most of the towns named Lincoln are in the Midwest or the western U.S., towns that were founded after the Civil War. Also tied at 19th is Newport. The largest one is the one in Rhode Island with a population of about 25,000. There are many towns in England called Newport, and some of the U.S. cities were named after some of these different ones in England. And still other Newports in the U.S. are more of a general term, a new port. Also with 20 occurrences is Richmond, the largest of which is the capital of Virginia with about 226,000 people. And most of the cities in the U.S. with that name are named after the city of Richmond in England. However, there are others, including Richmond, California, which are named after the one in Virginia. Also with 20 occurrences is Troy. The largest one in the U.S. is in Michigan. It's a suburb of Detroit. There are about 84,000 people there. Most of the towns in the U.S. named Troy are named after the ancient Greek city. There are 4 names with 22 occurrences in the U.S., the first one being Ashland. The largest one is in California with about 24,000 people, but the ones in Kentucky and Oregon are almost the same size. The one in Oregon was named after the one in Kentucky, which was named after the Kentucky Congressman Henry Clay's estate. And the estate itself was named after the large ash forest in the area. Also with 22 occurrences is Burlington. The largest one is in Vermont with about 45,000 people. Most of the Burlingtons in the U.S. are named after one of the Earls of Burlington in England, and others are named after the family name Burling to make Burlington. Also tied at 15th is Milton. The largest one is in Georgia with about 40,000 people, and it's a suburb of Atlanta. Many of these were named after John Milton, who was a Revolutionary War officer, and some others were named after other people named Milton. And the last one tied at 15th is Oxford. The largest one is in Mississippi with about 26,000 people, and it's the college town for the University of Mississippi. The one in Mississippi was named after Oxford University in England, and all of the other Oxfords in the US are either also named after the university or after the town in which the university is located. There are 5 names tied for 10th, each with 23 occurrences. The first is Arlington, in which the largest is in Texas with just under 400,000 people. The one in Texas was named after Arlington, Virginia, which was named after the Earl of Arlington in England. I do have to put an asterisk on Arlington, Virginia, being that it isn't technically a city. Because of the strange way that Virginia does things, Arlington is actually a county, not a city. Arlington, Virginia has about 239,000 people, and the name Arlington is the only one in which 2 of the cities named that have populations greater than 200,000. Also tied for 10th is Greenville, or if you live in the South, Greenville. Of the 23 occurrences, the largest is in North Carolina with about 88,000 people. The one in South Carolina has a population of 71,000 people and is one of just 3 cities on this list in which it's the largest city of a metro over 1 million people. Also, do note that one of the Greenvilles is in Tennessee. That's Greeneville, and that's named after a person with the last name of Green. Also with 23 is Milford. The largest is in Connecticut with about 50,000 people. Some of these are named after the town Milford in Surrey, England. Some are named after people with the last name Milford, and at least one is named after a water feature along the Mill River, the Mill Fords. Also tied for 10th is Monroe. The largest is in Louisiana and has a population of about 47,000. Most of these were named after the 5th president of the US, James Monroe. And for all of you Europeans, Africans, Asians, and Australians, the Monroe Doctrine is still in play. And the 5th one, tied at 10th with 23 occurrences, is Springfield. The largest one is in Missouri with about 170,000 people. Many Americans think that Springfield is the most common city name in the US because there are 5 that are fairly prominent. The one in Massachusetts has 156,000, the capital of Illinois has 114,000, the one in Oregon has 60,000, and the one in Ohio has 59,000. So Springfield is the only name on this list that has 3 different cities over 100,000. There are 4 names tied at 6th with 24 occurrences. The first is Chester. The largest is in Pennsylvania with about 34,000 people. And if you're familiar with Chester, it's pretty rough, and then Westchester right next to it is pretty nice. Most of the Chesters in the US are named after the town with the same name in England. However, the one in Nebraska is named after former US President Chester Arthur. Also with 24 occurrences is Manchester. The largest is in New Hampshire with about 116,000 people. And to the best of my knowledge, they are all named after the city in England, which is the 2nd largest metro in the UK. Also tied for 6th is Marion. The largest is in Ohio with about 36,000 people. Most of them were named after Francis Marion, nicknamed the Swamp Fox, a Revolutionary War general, but a few others were named after other people with the name Marion, either first or last name. And the last one with 24 occurrences is Salem. The largest is the capital of Oregon with a population of about 176,000. The earliest towns named Salem got their name from the Hebrew word shalom, which means peace. However, many of the more recent Salems, including the one in Oregon, were named after some of the older Salems. At number 5, with 25 occurrences, is Washington. And of course, the largest is the nation's capital in the District of Columbia with about 690,000 people. I believe all of the Washingtons in the US are in fact named after the first president, George Washington. And there are many other places in the US named after Washington. It's the most common county name in the US. So Washington is the most common name to come up in overall place names throughout the US, but in terms of overall incorporated cities, towns, and townships, there's only 25. Tied for 3rd with 26 occurrences is Fairview. And even with 26 occurrences, the largest one is the one in New Jersey with only 14,000 people. And in fact, Fairview is the only name on this list that doesn't have a single town over 20,000. And kind of like Fairfield and Springfield, it's more of a generic name to describe the overall surrounding geography. And you can see the high rises of Manhattan from the one in New Jersey, so that's a fair view. Also tied at 3 with 26 occurrences is Madison. The largest is the capital of Wisconsin with about 270,000 people, and most of these are named after the fourth president of the U.S., James Madison. I find it very interesting that Madison, Washington, and Monroe all show up on this list, but not Jefferson. Jefferson is the second most common county name in the U.S., but there aren't many cities named after him. The second most common town name in the U.S. is Clinton. There are 30 occurrences of this name in the U.S. The largest is in Maryland with about 39,000 people. And there's no one particular person that most of these towns are named after. Clinton was one of the most popular last names in the U.S. at the time these towns were named. And the most common city, town, township name in the U.S. is Franklin. There are 32 occurrences of this name in the U.S. The largest is the one in Tennessee, a suburb of Nashville with about 84,000 people. I think all of them were named after founder Benjamin Franklin, who was a very prominent Revolutionary-era statesman, although he was never president. And it's interesting that a statesman who was never president has more towns named after him than anybody who was president. But nonetheless, amongst the huge list of city and town names across the U.S., the one that comes up most often is Franklin. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up to let me know you approve, and subscribe to this channel if you're interested in learning more about U.S. geography. I'm talking about cities and counties and states and ranking them in all kinds of different categories, talking about cross-country road tripping, and everything I do comes from a little more nerdy type perspective. But yeah, thanks for watching. Geography King, signing out.